Hey, 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 everybody. Live from Denver. It's Friday night. Welcome to our Critical Conversation show for the 24th of March.
That's correct.
In the year of our Lord, 2023. Hey, everybody. Hey, critics. Welcome to our show. As you can see, I am joined this week by my beautiful wife, Melissa.
Hello. Hello.
Yes, we are very happy that she is here. Hey, thank you, Henny, for that quick comment there. I see all the usual critics in the audience here. Happy that you are here joining us on this Friday evening. We know you guys have, what did they say on Southwest or on the airlines? We know you have a lot of choices, and we appreciate you making ours your choice, right? I was gonna talk about that a little bit. In fact, let's go ahead and start the show getting into that. Then we'll go into some of our more usual stuff here. We got a lot to cover tonight. I love the fact that I have a show where I get to just kind of soapbox about things. I don't want to say I pontificate. I really hope I don't do that. But that are not just, Scientology directly related to that stuff, that we get to expand the horizons a bit and still be still under that umbrella of talking about or leading to or discussing it around the context of cults and destructive cults and coercive control, right? Because that's really the name of the game and kind of what it's all about on this channel. It's what we're about kind of stuff here. And it pervades all of society. There's so many different places it goes. So we'll get into that. But I wanted to let you guys know, if you didn't hear or know about this week, I did two things. I started channel memberships. So you will see if on the bottom below the video next to next to my name there, it says a join button, and you can click on that. And it's basically like Patreon, except that YouTube is sponsoring this. And so I do have my Patreon page. That's what really keeps everything going, is mainly the support that comes in there. But I thought, well, some people don't want to do that. They're uncomfortable with it. It's difficult for them, blah, blah, blah. Totally understandable. Totally understandable. And so why have to go to another website, maintain a whole other thing? You can just do it on YouTube. And so there's a YouTube 3 levels of membership that you guys can subscribe to. And they have little perks and things. And I do have to finish setting up the discount for the merch. That's the one, the top tier one, the one that I think it's like $25 a month or something. The critical supporter, like they're like the ultimate supporter or something. Anyway, that one is, you get a discount on the merch that I sell. And so that's not I know that's not a huge ticket item for this channel, but anyway, there's that. And then also today I posted my first YouTube short. Maybe we'll call them critical shorts. I'm not sure yet. That is definitely the branding of the channel. But yeah, that is, that's what's happening. So, okay, checking out some of the comments. Yeah. Okay, good. So, so YouTube shorts are, critical shorts, right? YouTube shorts are 1-minute videos. They're basically YouTube's answer to TikTok, where you have a 1-minute, throw it up there on the screen, and it has to be this way. It has to be vertical, not horizontal, and sent in the way it's focused, because the idea is you can do it with your phone. And I do a little bit more of a pro job than that. I thought I might just sit at my desk and do them, and maybe sometimes I will. But I thought, well, I've got the means to actually create a more professional looking short. And I saw some other channels that had done that, and I thought, well, there's no reason I can't be a little bit more professional about it. So that's what's happening there. Hey, Chad. All right. Excellent. So that announcement has now been made. So I'm excited about those things. I don't know how often I'm going to post shorts. They're not going to be a regularly scheduled piece of content for my channel. It's going to be whenever I feel like it, I'll throw one up. But it'll be fun to be able to put them up and give you guys a little something. And that was indicated when I asked my channel subscribers about that. So, do you have a quote to share with us for the week?
What's up? Anyway, okay. This is from Eloise Ristad. I don't know if that's how you say her last name. But anyway, when we give ourselves permission to fail, we at the same time give ourselves permission to excel.
Yeah. Yeah, that's my kind of quote.
Yeah.
Right? Because it does. It goes both ways. And sometimes we can really, depending on our mood, we can really harp on one or the other. But it really, the good is there as well as the bad,
It was like another one I saw where Thomas Edison said something like, I didn't fail. I just found like 10,000 ways that it didn't work.
Exactly. Exactly. I think I was surprised. I saw something the other day, a quote from Michael Jordan, where he had exact numbers on how many games he had lost.
Wow.
And how many shots he had taken or something that he didn't make. I mean, he had it was kind of crazy. And he said, and because of all those, I failed, I lost blah, blah games. I missed X rebounds. I didn't hit as many shots or whatever it was he said. And he said, but that's why I succeed, right? Is because you have to give yourself permission to fail. This is, I'm almost preaching to the mirror here on this one because it's hard. It's really hard to do that when you're not in that sort of beneficent, self-loving, reflective headspace or emotional space, right? It's hard to see failure as a lesson. I just sometimes I like even games, not in person, but if I play online or something, I just get way too serious about it. I actually have to remind myself of that from time to time. So, okay, great quotes. So let's go to our Benson cam and get this one here. Here's our little snuggles, not struggles, little doggy of love here. This is our little fur baby.
It's so cute.
He's sitting up on the couch there. You can see our red curtains. And this is an actual hangout spot for him. He guards our house from this spot. And he will look the other way out the window often and just stare outside. And of course, when the mailman comes, he lets him know and that kind of thing. But that is his perch. Oh, yeah. So he was quite comfortable up there.
He sits there waiting for us to come home.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. When we come home, his head will poke out of the curtains if he's not already looking out as soon as we get home. And he's just so nice. And then, of course, we'll sit there and watch TV at night. And then he'll be sitting right there, All right. So, what a great quote, Debbie. Yeah. Failure is an event. It is not a person.
Yeah.
Love that quote. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to hold on to that one. Okay. So here we are. We've sort of cleared the deck here, and it's monologue time. So I've been kind of prepping for this a little bit, so much so I get to do the Rush Limbaugh here. I'm now getting to a place where I'm no longer able to fit it all on a Post-it. And so I have a Post-it, and then I have a whole sheet of paper. Ugh, I'm starting to feel like Alex Jones or something at Rush Limbaugh. And they have all these papers around them. If I ever get there, please shoot me.
Yeah, if he starts throwing them around and getting angry.
Yeah, exactly. Especially if I start... Yeah, we don't want any of that. All right. So, yeah, I have a few things to go over tonight in terms of this thing that is kind of touching all of our lives, especially if you're using, devices, which, of course, all of us are, and how our lives are being heavily, heavily influenced and have been for a number of years now by these mechanisms that we're referring to as AI, artificial intelligence. This has been a concern for decades. This is not anything new that we would be concerned about or wondering about, what kind of influence or power will this have, or does this have, or could this have into the future? And there's a lot of worry and stress and concern about this, and it's the source or subject of numerous articles and books and wonderings about this. Now with ChatGPT, versions of what we call artificial intelligence are now not only the subject of writings, they are the source of writings. We are now getting kids in school trying to use ChatGPT to write essays for them and book reports and things like grad papers, which, there have been even articles about that where it's, oh, wow, who knew grad papers were so dull that a computer could write them.
Right?
All right. Now, I don't think any computer could have written what I wrote. I'll definitely say that. I don't think we're going to be seeing. In fact, I know we would not be seeing anything resembling original research.
No, it has to be something like that people have done reports on a million times.
Oh yeah, exactly. Because it's only a text retrieval and advanced kind of search thing. That's what ChatGPT is. It combines an incredible amount of information. So its resource pool is huge. But at the end of the day, it's not thinking. And this is what got me going and deciding I needed to do or wanted to do a show about this and sort of, talk about this a bit. Is it's not thinking. And there's AI, artificial intelligence, and then there's AGI, if I remember this right, artificial general intelligence, which is more along the goal of what we think of, a thinking machine, a Terminator, a HAL 9000, something like that is actually doing independent, original thinking, not dependent upon what it's been told to do, and showing initiative and creativity, you could say, problem solving at a level that we do.
We're not there yet. Yeah.
Oh my God, we're not even remotely there yet. And there are reasons for that. And I'm not, I'm a computer guy in that I have programmed computers. I have worked with computers my entire life. I was growing up in the 80s with PCs and Macs, the original toaster Mac. And, I watched all of it happen right in front of me. And I participated in it. I was in my school's first computer class ever. And I, dug in and learned how to do coding when I was in the Sea Org. And I wrote database systems and little intranet systems in the Sea Org. I self-taught and I did that. And we use that for management tracking and stuff. And the only reason I'm talking about that or saying that is I want you to know I'm more than a little familiar with this. I've been, doing my homework on computers since I was a kid. That's kind of normal now, but I was kind of, in terms of it reaching down to the teenagers and reaching down into the homes, I think I was the first gen of that, or, maybe second. So I've been around this stuff my whole life, and my dad was a software engineer, and he sat us down and explained, the zeros and the ones and the bits and the bytes and all the ways that computers think and what they're doing. And that was something that was incredibly interesting to me. And I used to sit and pound out the DOS commands at the prompt and all this. I mean, anyway, I'm just kind of going on here, but this is my background in this, but that's as far as it goes. I'm not now familiar with all the depths and levels and terminology. The field has mushroomed in ways that are far, far beyond my ability to grasp or comprehend in any kind of real sense of I can talk intelligently about neural networks or various aspects of how AI has been approached or
algorithms
or worked on. Yeah, I mean, I kind of understand the concept of an algorithm, but ask me to write one, no. So what I am is a site guy. So I'm looking at this from a different perspective, and I believe this perspective is an informed and necessary one in the general picture of this, because the fear that occurs, or the thing that concerns me about the fears and about the mission statements and the work that gets done, or at least as it's presented to the public, that's us, is that there is this goal or this idea that we're going to create an artificial brain that's going to be better than ours. And, very smart people. I mean, Sam Harris has been on podcasts talking about this. People who I take seriously as serious thinkers, even if I don't agree with what they have to say all the time. And I certainly don't agree with everything Sam Harris has to say. But, the serious thinkers are giving serious thought to this, and what's it going to be, and what's it going to look like, and what could it do? And there's this idea that intelligence equals initiative, creativity, and us. That we are rational, intelligent creatures, and that's how we sort of model ourselves, and that's what we are. And I have a bit of a different take. And you guys have heard this take because I've used it to discuss cultic activities and why people get into cults. We're talking about emotions here. Emotions are what drive us. And I believe emotions are what determine our behavior way, way, way more than you might say rational thinking and the thought process. That's very, very, very much a tool of our thinking process and very, very much determines the paths we take, but not as much as our biases and our emotional needs and commitments. I think these are crucial, absolutely integral to everything about our behavior. I don't think it can be separated because it's what and who we are. Our feelings, our reactions to the world. Emotions are not just, grief and fear and anger. Emotions are like all the physical and what we perceive as mental processes and responses to external activity, to internal activity. It's both, that we can react to ourselves, we can react to the outside world. And that's a basic idea. It's not a complete and full idea across every domain or spectrum, but it's a good idea for me of what I'm talking about when I'm talking about emotions. And we contextualize these emotions to various situations. You can be laughing in sorrow and pain at a funeral, and you can be laughing in joy and hysteria and comedy at a comedy show. Kind of similar looking reaction physiologically, often confused for one another. Yeah. Right? Yeah. Lots of behavior is duplicated across the emotional spectrum, but context tells us, whether it's appropriate or not, or what, how we're experiencing that emotion and all that. So this plays into my first question on this, right? When we talk about artificial intelligence, okay, so what is intelligence?
Good question.
Right? Exactly. It is a good question, and it's one that is sort of figured out in lots of different ways. There are perfectly valid, interesting definitions for artificial intelligence and for human intelligence, and there's articles about this and breakdowns on this. And depending on who you are and what your background is, determines a little bit about how you approach that problem. I see, the engineering, computer science, techie guys being very problem solving and very structured in the thinking of what this, what intelligence is, while, people like me or people in the psych world are a lot more, we could say, intelligence fluid. Yeah. Right. Which is not to say we're trying to be loosey-goosey about it, but you start realizing the magnitude of the problem of, okay, so we're going to define intelligence as problem-solving, rationality, proper emotional response, contextual emotional behavior or rational behavior, and how one determines that. There's a lot of component parts to this that basically kind of are summing up to, well, they're not summing up to a whole thing except a human being. That's what's so kind of hard about this.
Well, and they're leaving out intelligence is like creativity.
Well, that the ability to be creative is not hinged upon intelligence, but what you can do with your creative impulse is. Absolutely, yeah. Right? Because it has to do with connecting dots and figuring things out and what's the way through the labyrinth. But then you get the problem of, okay, so like I present this labyrinth thing, or like what's the shortest route from here? What would be the most efficient way to get here and here and here if you were going to design a metro system? Well, one way you could solve that problem is to take a slime mold that has no nervous system or brain of any kind and stick it on a map and put food where you want it to go to, where you want it to draw the routes, and it finds it. It finds it. And it finds the shortest possible route, the most efficient way to do it. And there ain't no brain there doing that. And you're like, what is this about? So, and then when we get into the even harder question is, how do we test intelligence? Now, it's interesting because we have no problem or real question, at least not that I've seen, measuring the intelligence of a machine. Mm-hmm. We establish metrics. And we say, well, that's how, how much gigahertz, how much processing power, how many computations per second.
Yeah, what can it do? What can't it do?
Exactly, right? Like all these different things that it can or can't do that we can measure very, very precisely. How come we don't transfer that over to how we measure intelligence in human beings by, okay, how many neural channels do you have? Or when you're solving a problem, how much of your brain activity by percentage or weight is engaged in that
I think it's
problem
because we
solving?
realize that, like, just because, one person's brain might light up over here when they're thinking about a problem and someone's over here, so it doesn't mean that one of them's smarter.
Well, see, that's the thing. We don't get this yet.
Yeah.
That's kind of the punchline, right? Is that this thing up here is not understood. Oh, thank you, Anthony.
Yeah.
No, not right now. An AI could not become a cult leader for the reasons we're going to go over here. Understanding this thing and understanding us is, I believe, crucial to understanding the problem of creating AGI. Because if we're going to model ourselves as this general intelligence that it can do all these different things in all these interesting ways, then we have to understand what it is we're trying to copy. We're trying to mimic a thing. We're not trying to build a new thing that is fully evolved on its own. We're trying to create something that mirrors us. And our way of, rationally problem solving. And I think it's hilarious that there are people who think that's how we think and that is how humans act. Because when you're on the social science side of things, I think it's, fairly non-controversial to say we don't act in a rational, critical thinking, reasonable way. Hardly ever. We do. We are capable of that.
But it takes work to be able to do that. Like, you have to really think about it, and you have to kind of sit there and, okay, am I thinking rationally about this? Like, a lot of times it's just instant,
Well,
you
exactly.
You have to be able to step back and go, okay, what's the rational way to do this?
But get this. There's also a whole neural network down here. Mm-hmm. And it turns out that research is moving in the direction, from what I've seen, and I haven't gone deep in the literature on this, but from what I'm seeing over the last few years, this might have just as much to do with your thinking process as this.
So that nasty Taco Bell might be why you're having bad thoughts, huh?
Well, as a matter of fact, I will go so far. I've been thinking about this for years now, and I think I've said this a couple times, is I will posit, I will throw out there that the entire system is what determines and establishes and contextualizes your thinking. Mm-hmm. Because I guarantee you, if I drop a hammer on your toe, I'm going to change how you're thinking.
Change your mood a little bit.
I'm going to change a whole lot. I'm going to change your life for a short period of time. And you're going to become hyper aware of that sensory input, and it's going to affect your mood, and it's going to affect your activity and your behavior and your thinking. And so can we divorce that from how we think about the process of our thinking and our intelligence, therefore, right? How do we measure this? What are we measuring? If we're trying to measure, how many people know how to solve 2 + 2 = 4, well, that's easy. But is that intelligence? Not if you've never been taught it.
Nope.
Or haven't been able to figure it out somehow. And the intelligence testing world, just like the personality testing world, and I did a video about this, breaking down Scientology's personality test, and then kind of spoke more broadly about the subject of personality tests. These are horribly inaccurate, horribly awful, and change on a daily basis, because we change on a daily basis. And so what are you measuring? What standard are you using? And the personality tests we have, you guys know, most of these things are a total joke. Well, intelligence testing has been controversial for many, many years for this exact same reason. It's so culturally specific, or so Euro-Western specific.
It's very bias in a way, you know, like it's biased, like you said, in a Western sort of way. For like what I feel is that there's different kinds of intelligences. Because yes, there is the mathematical engineering sort of intelligence, but there's creative intelligence. There's physical intelligence. You know, there's people that can figure out how to get around in the woods, and I'd probably just be lost and die.
Well, that's a way of framing it, and that itself is controversial. There's actually articles denouncing that entire way of thinking, and we don't have different kinds of intelligence, and then there's books that we do. So
and how come there's people that can be real smart in one area and real dumb in other ones?
Exactly. So this is first the sort of basis of my thinking on this is that we are organic machines, if you will. We are systems, and these systems are understandable. We've broken down in anatomy books for hundreds of years now what the system looks like and how it's broken down in terms of, you know, the fluids and the organic processes that are occurring and all of that. And we're digging deeper and deeper into the final frontier, which is our brain, the most complicated device we know of, period, in the entire universe. That's a true statement. There is nothing we've run across that comes close to being as complicated as what we all carry around with us 24/7 and have our entire lives, and what every single human being has. And look at the infinite variety of that, and what, you know, not only brains, but the entire system. So I think that you really can't think about intelligence or emotion without having these things kind of thought of together in terms of us and how we think and how we act. So that's kind of where I was going with all that. And so it's not, you know, the one of the things that's been talked about for decades is just this. It's just the brain. So that's why I make that point, is I think it's an important one. The brain is one organ. And the primary function of the brain is to regulate the systems of the body. The body has a whole thing going on, and the brain's sort of the command center for that and regulating all of that. Its second function is prediction based on its inputs. And the brain doesn't see shit, doesn't hear shit. It's just getting neurons. It's all neural, right? It's all whatever that activity is that's going on in there. And we don't even fully understand all of that yet. We got the neurons, but there's this whole thing called the glia, the glue. But it turns out that might be involved in all of this too, in more ways than just connective tissue. Makes sense given how much power that thing is operating at and what it's accomplishing and doing on a second by second basis. I don't think there's any wasted space up there. But it's our job it's been our job to figure that out. And really, it's a new science. This is less than 100 years, 150 years old. You know, the real, from first inking of neurons and pictures of them to where we're at now. Okay, so I bring up, you know, in various places, and I'm going to give you guys a couple quotes here today from some responses I got. I bring up some of these thoughts and ideas on social media, and I get responses from people who are in that AI world and are kind of on the AI worshiping side of it. I'm absolutely fascinated by this. I'm working on this. I'm an engineer in this. These folks, right? I'm not talking about the venture capitalists. I haven't had conversations with them. Peter Thiel's not answering my calls.
Oh, really?
Neither is Elon Musk, but that's okay. I don't really want to talk to them. But there's this, I was first disturbed many months ago by seeing numerous times, not once, not twice, numerous times I was seeing responses from coders about the social media algorithms. And this is where it kind of started for me, and like, wait a minute, what? And the idea here is you have individuals, you have human beings who are writing these social media algorithms that were directed to kind of make us all crazy. In effect, I mean, that's through addiction to the social media itself, to what we see in the decline in mental health statistics, especially in certain populations like teenage girls, where suicide is up like 15, 20%. These kinds of things are not small things. They are huge things, and we see causative elements of this in social media activity. It kind of parallels. It's not a total correlation thing. It looks more of a causation thing. Is that the only factor? No, of course not. Every single individual has their own situations when it comes to, that depth of depression and behavior. But social media has certainly not been proven to help or assist anybody with any of that in any real significant statistical way that I've seen. So I was like, okay, what's this about? And I started questioning people I knew in that world. Like, what are you guys thinking about writing this stuff? What's do you understand like what's going on here and what you're contributing to? And the answer that came back routinely, and I was really blown away by this, and maybe I shouldn't have been, was, yeah, I got to pay the bills.
Jeez.
Sorry. Yeah, well, yeah, tough. Yeah, got to do what you got to do, Kids need new shoes, so got to do it. And they're, obviously hearing that from one person, you go, oh, well, okay, I guess that guy's gotten, a bit of a, shiesty moral compass or little, weird, what's up with that, right? Like what's going on there? But then I hear it again, and then I hear it again, and then I'm like, wait a minute, what? And I find out that this kind of attitude is fairly prevalent. And then I go, okay, all right, well, that sucks, but I get it. And morality is, hyper contextual for people and hyper specific to them and their situation. And, if you need the money and this and that, and this is your path to doing it, people will. And of course, the whole Milgram and the authority experiments, Ash authority experiments, all that stuff, right? You go, okay, fine, I get it. People are going to do what they're going to do. But then I bring up this stuff about intelligence and about, hey, the talks have been done at Google, other places about emotion. And I've watched those. They were very interesting and educational to me. By psychologists, by people who, who've studied this, made that their life work. And it gets ignored, right? They just don't pay attention. They're like, yeah, that's not important. Emotion, schmotion, right? This is problem solving. We're doing problem solving here. We're following logical sequences, and we're building, basically million box long flow charts and, things that are very, very complicated and very, very intense, but it's all very down to earth and it's not emotional in any way and this kind of thing. Totally missing the fact that that's actually what drives behavior and also is what creates morality, goals, purpose, meaning, direction, initiative. All of that comes from emotion. Doesn't happen without it. Otherwise, you just got a calculator on your hands. Calculators don't do anything by themselves. It doesn't. And we found in people who through brain damage lose emotional processing or lose the ability to experience or feel things the same way the rest of us do with an average brain, we find a failure in initiative and a lack of desire to do most anything. The life goes out of them, and there's indecision. There's like, I can't make up my mind, but you can figure things out. Yeah, but I can't decide what to do. Mm-hmm. There's like this inability to be on a path, to go somewhere, right? Why? Because those are emotional needs. Having purpose and meaning and goals is not a logical process. We logic our way after the fact of our desires and our needs and our relationships with our environment. Then the rationality kicks in and gives us all the reasons why we feel that way or should feel that way. Mm-hmm. And of course, education is a factor here as well. Those are morals and what's going to hold my place in the. I did too watch Knight Rider. What's going to hold our place in the social hierarchy? Well, that's what morals are. Answer a good number of those questions. Morals aren't just about what makes you feel good. It's about maintaining relations with others,
getting along, and
with your social group.
And right? If you're following the rules, then people help you out.
Exactly. So I bring this stuff up in these circles. And here are some of the responses that I get. I go, look, guys, we're not really clear yet what our intelligence is. You know, we have this whole emotional thing. Nobody gets that. And nobody is tracking with what consciousness is. Literally nobody. All you have are ideas and theories. There's nothing agreed upon in terms of, you know, what consciousness is even defined as. And how would you explain it in a whale or a dolphin? They're living creatures too, or apes or monkeys or whatever, or fish or crows. You want to talk about animals that have distinct personality and behavior. Crows are amazing. Little tiny eensy weensy bird brains, literally. But complicated behavior. Very interesting stuff. So is it size? Is it size of brain relation to body size? Is it environment? You know, there's all these factors.
Is it all the synapses? What is it?
Right. Maybe we should understand this because we're trying to mirror it. We're trying to create it. We're trying to do a Frankenstein here. And yet we don't grasp these principles about ourselves, much less how are we going to create something else that's going to be us. And the responses I get here, nature is dumb as a rock, has no drive or motivation, no sense of anything, and it created intelligence and consciousness. Our intelligence and consciousness was created without any knowledge how it works. It proves that pure randomness and brute forcing it seems to be enough to create it. Bullshit. Sorry, no.
Wow.
You know, nature brute forced it over millions and millions and millions of years. Like they just write it off. Not a problem. Okay. Somebody else responds. We might not be close, but we're getting closer every year. We don't need to be able to define intelligence and consciousness as a whole to make it. A water molecule doesn't need to understand how it shapes a river. It just needs to reshape it a small bit at a time. Incremental progress will eventually get us to AGI. I mean, it's almost cute. It's almost touching how faith-driven these statements are, right? And then when I bring morality into the question up as a, you know, well, what about the moral implications of this? Oh, you would not believe the nihilistic screeds I got. I mean, just
I'm sure.
Straight up, you know, it's all beyond us and all of this. Okay, so let's get to where I'm seeing dangers here. Did any of y'all have seen 2001: A Space Odyssey, right? Because I'm going to talk about HAL 9000 for a second. Let me give you a little story. So 2001: A Space Odyssey. There's a supercomputer running a spaceship that two astronauts are on with some scientists. They're on their way to Jupiter. And it's the first manned mission out to Jupiter, and this is this movie. So then, along the way, out of nowhere, HAL 9000, the supercomputer that's running the whole ship, kills the scientists. They're in suspended animation. They get shut down. They're dead. And it then kills one of the astronauts while he's out fixing an antenna array that's not actually broken. Hal just said it was to lure him out there so it could kill him. And then Bowman, the last surviving astronaut out there, gets back in the ship and gets to the computer and takes it apart. And there's never any explanation as to why Hal went nuts. Just did. And it's kind of one of those interesting.
Well, humans go nuts for no good reason sometimes too. So.
Well, and we'll get there, right? Because as somebody mentioned, 2010, the year we made contact, I liked it too. I liked the book and I liked the movie, and that was back when I was a teenager. And I was looking at it again recently. But there's an explanation in that sequel for why HAL 9000 broke down. Now, the doctor what happens is, you know, X number of years later, they send a mission out there to find out what the hell happened. Because, you know, Bowman disappears, the monolith is out there, and they're like, what the hell's going on? Well, turns out that they send the doctor who created, or the main guy who created the HAL 9000, his name is Dr. Chandra. And I just ripped this off the Wikipedia page. Chandra discovers the reasons for HAL's malfunction. The National Security Council ordered HAL to conceal information about the monolith from the Discovery's crew and programmed him to complete the mission alone. This conflicted with HAL's programming of open, accurate processing of information, causing the computer equivalent of a paranoid mental breakdown. That's called a double bind, the thing I keep harping about and talking about all the time, the thing that makes psychosis. Double binds. You create two structured rules, walls, immovable objects, and they can't both mutually exist, but they have to, but they can't, but they have to, but they can't. And who knows where you're going to go in trying to resolve the incredible amount of mental noise that is generated by those two immovable objects, those rules or guides or whatever. And here we have Arthur C. Clarke writing about it back when he wrote 2010. This was a brilliant explanation for why HAL 9000 did what it did. When Bowman and co-pilot Frank Poole discussed deactivating the malfunctioning computer, HAL judged that the human crew was endangering the mission and terminated them. If you don't understand the psychology of human beings and what a double bind is, of course you're going to create them. And you're not going to account for them in the programming. And you're not going to account for the cognitive dissonance that can occur. And what's a computer going to do about that when there's a void of emotional processing to restrain its actions or even give it a concept of morality?
Well, and it's just saving itself. It's like, of course, that's a totally natural reaction for any sort of intelligence to have. It'd be like, oh, crap, it wants to kill me. I better protect myself.
Exactly. So, Henny, again, when the humans on board the ship were talking about taking HAL down, HAL judged that they were getting in the way of the mission being completed. They were endangering the mission, and he had to get rid of them, and he terminated them. And that's a product of a psychotic series of thoughts that come from a double bind. Mm-hmm. You and me encounter double binds and problems in the world all the time. And this thing cushions the blow and deals with it. And it deals with it for a number of reasons. Most importantly, I believe, because of our emotional reactions in life, not because of our calculation ability or problem-solving ability. We don't figure our way through these things. We feel our way through them. And we tend to then figure our way through the solution we feel our way to. You know, we arrive there first, right? What do I want to do, or what do I need to do? Mm-hmm. What is my moral principles and foundations demanding I do? Okay, good. Now I'm going to reason my way into why that's the right thing to do, but I've actually already arrived there. From everything I've studied and read, I believe most of our behavior and thinking processes follow that train of that sequence and that logic. And we're very good at it. It's not like we're even like hyper aware of our own processing of this. Because how many people think that hard about and introspect that much on the feeling versus the thinking, and what is that, you know, how do you even separate those? Because we all think kind of differently too. Mm-hmm. You know, there's some people who don't have inner monologues. How are they thinking through things? You know, I mean, this is fascinating
they just
stuff.
Images or what?
Oh yeah, it's fascinating stuff. So cutting to the chase now, right? The dark side of not understanding, I'll just read this because I just wrote all this stuff before the show. So, the dark side of not understanding these systems and the black box design of algorithms. In other words, they design algorithms and they don't even know how they work. They just input, output. There's no fact-checking ability or ability to even comprehend what the system is doing. This is when code writes itself. And this is scary shit, guys, and here's why. The dark side of not understanding these systems and the black box design of algorithms is that we cannot control or fix them, yet we plow ahead as though it's not a big deal. There's an almost gleeful sort of irresponsibility that it's such a big thing, and the march of technology is so beyond any of our ability to control that none of us bear any responsibility for it. As I was describing, right? Well, I got to pay, got to pay the bills. And this is coming from the coders and engineers who are actually working on this, not news media pundits or the general population. They, the media and the general, you and me, we're the ones who are saying, hey, wait a minute.
Yeah, this isn't okay.
Maybe this isn't a good idea, right? But the tech guys don't care what anyone has to say. They're marching forward at full speed, caught up in a kind of hysterical hype that somehow it will all turn out okay. And this is where the cultish thinking comes into play for a couple reasons.
Like you said earlier, that's very faith-based. It's going to be fine.
Well,
everything always works out. And you're like, how?
Right. Well, when you have to justify your behavior, and the behavior is moral for you, and is, it's serving you and your kids and your wife and your this and your that. You can, remember, guys, I've said this so many times. People can believe anything if you give them a good enough reason to. That doesn't just apply to wacko Xenu stories. This is kind of the same thing. Techies get into an us versus them paradigm against society and the common good and rationalize their own behavior as inevitable, reasonable, and even rational. It's all us fearmongers and that sort of thing who are to blame, while they build systems that literally increase mental health decline and suicide. And please, I say something like that is like this, obviously not every single person who has anything to do with computer programming and technology is falling into this category. I'm talking about a set of people who are working irresponsibly in this industry. And that is not, by a far cry, every single person who's working across the industry. And I really don't want to paint with too broad a brush when I say this, but I am talking about a group of people that are very real and definitely exist. And I'm calling them techies here for lack of a better term. Techies hold AI in a kind of reverential awe, as though this isn't a man-made system, but is something beyond them, which must be revered and semi-worshipped. This is where this faith comes in. Well, it's all going to work out, right? Well, it's all, it's faith in this sort of digital God. This is especially true of those who see AI as a way of not only increasing their stranglehold over the economy and political situation, but who see themselves as semi-gods who already own so much capital and wealth that they feel invincible. And here I'm referring to the Peter Thiels of the world, the Elon Musks of the world, the tech gods, right? The people, the venture, the investors, and the CEOs and the entrepreneurial people who are at that super high level. This is a classic narcissistic personality with so much uncontrolled power and influence that they say no reason to restrain anything they wish to do or have, including control over populations.
Gee, and we see how well that works in other areas of business and banks and things when there's no control.
Exactly. And of course, the punchline here at the end is, if and when things go bad, and I do not have this idea that they have to. That's why I'm talking tonight. That's why I'm going to, keep talking about this and other things, is because I do have hope that my words are not wasted, and that you guys know and understand this, at the same way I do, that there are threats here. There are real situations here that need to be dealt with, and we need our commanders in chiefs and our legislators and our leaders to take these things into consideration and think about them, not just plow ahead irresponsibly. Because, sorry, I'm just got this dry throat here tonight. Because where this goes otherwise, right, is exactly where all the movies and stories have told us it goes, and where the Manhattan Project went, and where the Nazi scientists went with their crap. I mean, this is not an unprecedented event or time or thing that I'm talking about here. Science can go really, really bad and really, really wrong sometimes if it doesn't have some moral foundations upon which to rest and think. And, and again, the punchline at the end of this is, as the unintended consequences of those actions wreak destruction and tragedy across human lives, they're confronted with this and then they get off with, well, how was I supposed to know? How were we supposed to know? As probably in my lifetime most brilliantly expressed by James Cameron in Terminator 2, right? There it was. The unintended consequences coming back to kill you, literally, So again, this is not particularly original thinking on my part, but I thought I would throw my sort of, culty look at this and it's disturbing. It really is. So, even all the way back to war games. That's right. So, let's take a couple calls now. Let's jump right into this. And then we will wrap up the show. So, first call, I think this is Carol.
Gail.
Oh.
Hi.
You always do that.
I know. It always comes up on the auto screen.
That was an excellent monologue, Chris. And I have a degree in psychology, and there's just so many things I want to say that it would take a deep dive. So what I'm going to do right now is ask the question that I was thinking about. Do you know that it is illegal to stop people from notifying authority or the police when there's a crime? So how does Scientology get away with that?
Oh, it's a closed system, right? The bubble world, right?
Yeah, I know they do the arbitration and all that garbage with nothing is on your side, but actually, I've listened to a police officer, a retired officer, talk about this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Oh, no, I didn't say anything.
And
Go ahead.
He said it is illegal to stop someone from reporting a crime.
Of course it is.
So you would think.
Yeah.
So you would think these people would get in trouble.
Yeah, you'd think they would. But somebody still has to report that to the police or something, right? Like you'd think that would occur to people, but remember what I was just talking about with the way people can bend their thinking and reasoning based on their emotional needs and their moral foundations, and they will twist these things around, right?
I'm thinking, if somebody say assaults me, of course I could be emotional, and they say that on the Steelers, they don't even have a 911 call.
No, it goes to security. And as I understand it, and then security has to be able to patch it through to an outside line. And that's all by design in order to stop that kind of thing from happening. But you have to, in order to stop it from happening, you'd have to go in there as an external objective law enforcer or authority and prove that that's going on, and then get them to stop it. And when everybody agrees this is how it's going to be in that world, and that is how it is you either can't question the authority or you agree with the authority and you're totally fine with it and it makes total sense to you. That's I mean, having lived in that for for as many years I did, it doesn't even occur to you to call the police. Why would you do that?
Agree with it?
What's that?
It doesn't occur to you surely someone disagreed with this.
Oh, sure, but you report it internally. Like for us as Sea Org members, for example, we would never call the police because they're the bad guys. They're the wogs. They're the outside guys. It's our own.
That's part of the prison of your mind.
Exactly. It's all part of that whole picture.
Oh, that's just incredible. One other thing I want to say really quickly. Thank you for your take on. You talked about the thing that I heard an L. Ron. I don't think it's on now, but I heard an old L. Ron Hubbard lecture, And my take was so different from someone in Scientology.
Oh, I'll bet.
Because I thought it was crazy. Because he talked about everything from the fourth dynamic to Xenu to implant stations. And I thought, it sounds like he's just making this up as he goes along. Well, I guess someone in Scientology would hear it differently.
Yes, they hear it very differently. Yes. We receive those words as words of wisdom and authority and manna from heaven, you could say. That's how we thought about it.
Okay, well, thank you for taking my call.
You're
Thanks, very smart guy. That was a great lecture.
Well, thank
Good
you.
night.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye. All right, good. And we will take this last call here. Hi, is this John?
Hello. Yes, it is. How's it going?
Hey, John. Thanks for calling in. Thanks for holding so long. What you got for us tonight?
No problem. I think that one of the problems is that people don't realize just how long AI has been in use, both in military government applications and as a former law enforcement officer. I think that your last caller was talking about me. These things have been in use for decades now. They've just grown much more sophisticated as time is going. And no one's concerning themselves with things like the Asimov's 3 laws. They're not concerning about whether or not we should do it. What they care about is who can be the first to get to the finish line and make all the money on it.
Right.
And
exactly.
For the other folks, it's all about who gets all the credit.
That's it right there. That's right. And if you can't call that ego, I don't know what to call it. You know?
Right.
And I mean, we could obviously.
That's one of the major problems.
Yeah, exactly.
You look at China. China's already implemented social credit scores. Yep. They don't have enough people to man every computer to see what everyone's doing. So they have to use AI to go through and systematically pull out the people who are talking negatively or violating their social credit laws.
That's right. And when you look at the state of AI and its ability to pull out of a large data set accurate results, YouTube, for example, that's all AI driven, and it makes mistakes more often than it doesn't. At least it feels that way sometimes. So these are so far from perfect systems that even being able to process large swaths of data because it lacks context, and that it always kills these algorithms.
The problems we're seeing, especially with YouTube, is exactly like you said. It's overwhelming itself. It's not prepared for the levels they're trying to push it through, and it's constantly collapsing or it's corrupting its own coding as it goes. So that's why we have these problems with you'll have a video that strikes 1,000 views in the first 24 hours, then dies for a week before it starts coming back up.
That's right.
It's literally a snake eating its own tail.
That's right. And that process goes on behind the scenes as well with the monetization and demonetization of the videos based on the content that the AI is filtering through to determine whether this is bad or good. And it false flags so much content that's actually educational or informative, not incendiary and radicalizing, but it can't tell the difference. You know, that context is always its Achilles heel, you know?
I was threatened by Twitter for a permanent ban from Twitter just recently.
Yep.
They wouldn't tell me through the email what it was. I contacted Twitter, and it all came down to I had posted a photo of some hot dogs that I was going to have for lunch. And someone who was either a vegan or a vegetarian went on, filed a complaint saying that this was a violent act being shown on Twitter. They didn't even look at it. Their computer just went ahead and said, we're going to ban you.
That's right.
Wow.
That's right. So that's, so when I see stuff like that, and I see it every day on Twitter, I just kind of laugh a little bit. And I tweet about this from time to time about, anybody who thinks, these robots are about to take over the world. It's, definitely in a closet right now because we're not anywhere close to that. But what I'm afraid of is the HAL 9000 problem, where we're so ignorant that once we do have this, these vast arrays of computer processing power and an ability to mimic human behavior at a level that is almost indistinguishable from human behavior, Turing tests and all that crap. If you don't have this whole other basis, what's that?
Look at the drones we're using now for the military. They literally have drones that are doing what are called border patrols, border checks for certain areas that are AI. They're programmed to perform this maneuver. The sad thing about it is these drones are armed. They have missiles, and sometimes they even have the guns in them to fire bullets. Now, what happens when that programming gets corrupted?
Exactly.
Shoot the wrong person.
Exactly. We also see this reflected in the race for self-driving autos and numerous disasters that just keep attendant with that technology, and that's not even remotely at the level of the AI that we're really worried about. So, all right. Well, thanks very much for calling in, John. I'm gonna have to let you go, but I very much appreciate the points you made. Yeah, thank you very much. All right. Bye-bye. All right, folks. So, good. So that is our show for this evening. I think we will wrap up now with our critical thinking cards, and then I'll tell you what's up this weekend. Pick a card, any card.
Okay. All right. Oh my God. How do you say that?
Tu quo quo?
Yeah. Okay. Tu quo quo. Avoiding having to engage with criticism by turning it back on the accuser, answering criticism with criticism. The blue candidate accused the red candidate of committing the tu quo quo fallacy. The red candidate responded by accusing the blue candidate of the same, after which ensued an hour of back and forth criticism without much progress. Sounds about right. Oh, you're doing it. No, you.
All right. Oh, was that Poe on the go I was just talking to?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Okay. Yeah, you might be hearing more from him before too long here. All right. Good. So for this weekend, podcast tomorrow dropping with Alexander Barnes Ross, Apostate Alex, and I had a nice long, about 2-hour talk. Talked about social media, talked about Scientology, talked about culty stuff. So that'll be popping tomorrow. And then Sunday we have a pre-recorded Q&A because I will not have the time to do it live. Maybe we'll go live next weekend or something like that. We'll check that out. Okay, Poe on the go. There we go. Cool, man. Yeah, we'll be in touch. Awesome. Okay, so hope this was entertaining, informative, and educational. It's always the goal here. And of course, I will say, you need consultation, you need a little help, not therapy. I don't do that, but I can definitely help if in coercive situations or recovering from coercive situations. Drop me a line. Let's get in touch. I even have intake forms now. So, exciting. So anyway, good stuff. I will see you guys soon. Bye-bye.
Good night.